Greetings and welcome aboard to the Heavy Metal Truckers. We are your hosts. I am Pincushion, this is Doppler, and that is Frosty. And in this episode, we are finally taking a look and reviewing the latest album from Epica. What is it called again?
Aspiral or something like that?
Aspiral. Yeah, that's what it is.
Aspiral.
For what it's worth, I don't know how many of viewers have trypophobia, but the album cover's kind of not rough on it, but it's a bit I don't want to say triggering, but
Holy.
It'll test the trypophobia.
yeah, I had to, anytime I had it open playing, I had to go into another tab. I couldn't look at it. It was bothering me too much. So just fair warning for those that are not aware that Epica released an album. If you are trypophobic, be mindful of the album cover. It is, which typically I put the album cover as part of the video. I still plan on doing that, but for those that are trypophobic like myself, I plan on putting like just us in the middle of it, so you're not seeing the trypophobic aspect of the album cover. Anyways, aside from that, let's just get right into it, and we'll do our typical. We go over how we discovered Epica, then we'll go into the our perspectives and collective views on the album itself. So whoever wants to go.
You know, it's funny. I first discovered Epica probably around 07-ish. Somewhere around there. They hadn't been around very long. And I remember showing a buddy of mine. This was like obviously Epica's early work. And he's like, this music makes me want to strip naked, run into the forest, and dance around a fire.
That is oddly specific. But okay, I dig it.
Yeah.
I dig it.
But anyway, that was just a funny story. How like the early times when I discovered them. But and to me, they've always been in the same class of music, kind of like that gothic metal. Same thing as with Indentation.
With Indentation is amazing.
Yes, their last album was incredible.
Just, oh my god.
So I've always liked Epica. I've never been as big into them as I was or am with Indentation, but I've always liked them, and I really enjoyed Epica's last album that for the life of me I can't remember right now.
Well done.
So I had high hopes coming into this one.
Mm-hmm.
So I actually didn't know they were putting out a new album until it came out.
Mm-hmm. I remember that.
Yeah, and so I was like, oh shit, I need to listen to it, and I mentioned it to you.
Yeah.
And so as I was riding around, I started listening to it. And the first track, which they had a music video of, I didn't care for it. I was
What was the
not
first
a fan
track?
of the first song. What the hell is it called? I can't remember the name of it.
Nice.
Bad
First
Hope,
track
I
on
don't
this
know.
album.
Yeah.
Oh, the first track on the album is Across the Divide.
Yes, that one. Wasn't
Yeah.
the biggest fan of that one. Didn't care for it. I don't know. It just, you could tell it was a song that they made, to get the casual listener in, like hooked in. There wasn't anything like for me that overly stood out or was special about the song. Then you get to the second song, which is like, what is it called? Arcana or something like that?
Arcana.
Yeah. Complete opposite. I absolutely love that song. It might even be my favorite song on the album. I loved the elements that they brought into it, including the symphonic, the choir elements they brought into it. Just all of it. I absolutely love that song. Um, I also really enjoyed the songs. What is like part 4, 5, and 6, or 5, 6, 7, 8, something.
Yeah.
I forget what they're called. I enjoyed all of those too, because in those,
One of them
you
is Darkness
could
Dies in Light, and then the other one I don't remember.
there's
I
like
remember
3 or
that
4 of them.
one. Yeah, because like I went to
Metanoia.
Metatonia, or no, Metanoia.
Yeah,
Yeah.
The
Um,
metanoia.
yeah, I
yeah,
tried to label all these correctly, but the way my notes were going, it would have messed the whole thing. So I didn't put the part one or whatever.
yeah.
Yeah,
Those
it
I
was
enjoyed those as
Darkness
well.
Dies in Light, Metanoia, and the Grand Saga of Existence.
Yeah, those I enjoyed because to me, I felt like you could feel more of the creativity come out in those.
Hmm.
Um, they weren't as cut and dry as a lot of the other ones. So I enjoyed those more because I felt like you got to kind of see them musically a little bit more with those.
Yeah.
Um, and they kind of felt more like their previous album that like me I can't remember the name of. Um, and then there was another song they did a music video to, and I can't remember what it's called now. Something Fighters or We Are Fighters or Survivors or
Oh,
something of it.
Fight to Survive.
Fight to
Yes,
Survive.
that one wasn't bad. I liked it better than that Divide one. Um, that one wasn't bad. Um, and then I liked the title track, which was also the last song, Spiral.
Hmm.
I enjoyed that one. It was a much softer song,
It was.
but it flowed very well. It was very pretty per se. Um, I enjoyed it. Um, and to be honest, really, with the exception of the first song, I didn't dislike anything else. I either thought it was okay or I loved it, like with Arcana. Um, and it stayed true to what I think of musically when I think of Epica. Like there was nothing there that didn't feel like them, I guess you could say. Even though that first song kind of reminded me of something you would have heard Amaranth do, I guess.
Hmm.
Mm.
um, which as if anybody who watched it remembers, I did not like Amaranth's last album. Um,
Hmm.
but overall, minus the first song, I thought it was a fairly solid album. I wouldn't put it up with the previous album, but that was a high hill to climb anyway.
Hmm.
I wouldn't say it was as good as with Temptations album either. But again, that's a high bar to reach too. um,
That's no. Anyways, go on. That
yeah,
was.
like it's a hard, that's a high bar. It's still one of the top 2 or 3 albums we've listened to since we started this thing. Um,
Hmm.
um, Simone sounded great as always. Um, I forget the guy's name that does the harsh vocals. He sounded good. Um, yeah, I mean overall it was a solid album. 1 out of 10, I gave it a 7.75. It probably would have been like more like an 8 or an 8.25 if it hadn't been for that first song.
Gotcha.
But that's my personal preferences.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Frosty.
So I got introduced to Epica about a week ago, actually, when I was told we were going to be, you guys are going to be reviewing this, and I was like, screw it, let's check it out and see what's going
I
on.
shouldn't laugh because it really wasn't all
Legitimately
that
not
long
kidding.
ago that. Yeah, it wasn't all that long ago that I got introduced to it. Granted, it's like more I had known about them, but really like delving into them probably about 3 or 4 years ago for me, to be honest. So,
Yeah.
but anyways,
Yeah.
go on.
So, I'm I guess you got you know, all three different aspects, like an intermediate reaction to it, a noob's reaction to it, and then a veteran's reaction to it. But like I said, I'm brand new to Epica, 100%. This is the very first stuff I've ever heard from Epica, and every single song on this album, it's like every single one told its own individual story. They all they all seem to sound just slightly different from the other ones, and it almost was like, like this was like grim fairy tales almost. Like you're reading a book, the grim fairy tale books or whatever, and
Mhm.
I enjoyed quite a decent amount on this album. Arcana was definitely my favorite song, 100%. I mean, the dark aspects to it, the lyrics, music behind it, all of that. I mean, just like it's almost like you could see um, what the song was about and everything. Um, Obsidian Heart, even though it, it was like slightly slow, not as slow as the last song on the album, but it definitely had like something to it that really kind of like grabbed my attention. I enjoyed that one. I definitely enjoyed the trilogy songs, Darkness, Fight, and The Grand Existence. Definitely enjoyed all three of those. Um, Honestly, like I I enjoyed the fact that like not one song sounded the exact same as the other songs. I enjoyed the fact that it kind of gave like a fairy tale vibe, more like fairy tale meets metal. Um, which I mean,
Hold
with
up,
the
hold up, hold up,
with
hold
the
up, hold
band
up,
named Epica.
hold up. I'm gonna stop you for just a moment because we need to lay this down. We're gonna have to do another album review somewhat because we need his perspective on what album in particular. Do you know what I'm immediately talking about?
Who, me?
Yes,
Album that he's talking about.
the album that I'm talking about that he needs to listen to so we can get his perspective on it because I want it to be on the show.
Are you talking about the Visitation album?
No, I'm talking
No.
about Night Wishes Imaginarium.
Oh, imagine. Yeah, yeah.
Because
Yeah.
do you
Mhm.
hear what
Yeah.
he's saying and you know how
Yeah.
I was on it.
Mhm.
I'm like, we
Yeah.
need him to
Yep.
listen to that so we can do a
Yeah.
sir, we are doing an episode
Yeah.
on you're gonna listen to Night Wishes Imaginarium and we're gonna do a full episode that's just dedicated to your perspective on it because you need to listen to that.
Okay, well, I mean, that was what you guys had said the last time we listened to a Nightwish album. So
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
yeah,
Okay.
no,
Okay,
Yeah,
then
because we
y'all,
yes.
did
y'all
the
mentioned that I needed to, and I haven't yet. But yeah, because
yeah,
you
because
both
we've
made a lot of
done
points that it you both had made a lot of like
both.
comparisons between the new album and Imaginarium.
Yep.
So, but yeah, no. As far as Epic is concerned, like I definitely enjoyed every bit of the album. Like you said, the first one kind of it had its moments for me, but at the same time, it kind of like almost drowned on a little bit. Um, definitely love the fairy tale aspect of it. I don't know what it is about it, but um, every single bit of the time that I was listening to the album, it was
Oh,
just
he's
fairy
got to
tale this, fairy tale that.
he's got to listen to Imaginarium. God, he's got to listen to it.
Yeah, because it is kind of like a fairy tale. They even made a movie to go along with that album. So.
Mm-hmm.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Hands down, I'd
what's
actually need to get that album
funny
once I have the finances.
Do what now?
what's funny is
I just let it go on.
well, what's funny is like you guys are bringing up Nightwish, and to me, like I caught aspects of Nightwish in this album. Like, I mean, like, it gave off like a
Well, they're
hint
both
of
symphonic
Nightwish, but
metal.
it also gave off. Well, Um, like it gave off hints of Nightwish, hints of like I got like a bit of through the Dragon Force, like just twinge of that. I don't know, like I definitely caught some Amaranth aspects to it, but yeah, no, I mean this is
Yeah.
literally all my opinion on first ever hearing Epica and everything. So, but
So interesting. Oh, go ahead.
well, I was gonna say my rating on this, I'd definitely give it a 7.5. I enjoyed every second of the fairy tale. There were parts of it that did drown on, but overall, I like the fact that a lot of the songs didn't have the similar sound that the other songs did. Like they all kind of told their own individual story, and it was more or less just like reading a fairy tale novel.
Yeah.
So
Interesting.
7.5 for me.
It's interesting that you say that because you're like their name fits along with the fairy tale thing. So I've mentioned this
Yeah.
at the Pincushion before. You may not remember though, but about how Epica got their name.
You've
Yeah?
told me before, but it's been a long time.
Yeah. So I am a huge Camelot fan. I don't know if you've ever heard of Camelot.
Oh yeah, now I remember.
Oh yeah.
So I'm a big Camelot fan, which Simone Simmons is actually married to. The Simone Simmons lead singer of Epica is actually married to the keyboardist from Camelot. But Epica got their name from the Camelot album of the same name. I think it was like their fourth album maybe that Camelot ever put out was called Epica.
You guys keep
That's
talking.
where the band got the name.
Oh wow.
Yep.
Hmm.
And then, like I said, she's married
Well,
to the keyboardist from Camelot.
well, I mean, and to go along with the whole fairy tale aspect, I mean, with a name like Epica, you kind of expect some sort of like grand adventure sort of songs
Right.
going into the albums, and I mean, it definitely gave off. I mean, like I said, it was like the grim adventure, like the grim fairy tales and all that. It was like all the fairy tales put in one book, sort of thing. That's kind of the vibe I got from the entirety of the album. Definitely enjoyed it.
My mind just went blank. Oh, there we go. Now, have you listened to With Indentation before?
Mm-mm.
No.
No, what's funny is
Then,
you you two have been introducing me to a lot of different new stuff.
so I've been a fan of With Indentation since like '03, and now I've turned him into a fan of With Indentation. So their newest album is called Bleed Out, and we did a review of it. And he and I both will tell you it's probably top 3 albums we've done.
Sorry about that.
So if you
What's
ever
going
get
on?
a chance, I was telling him because about how what in the hell is going on with the cameras? There we go. We were because I mentioned that we had talked about With Indentation and whatnot before this and how good that
Mhm.
album was.
Oh yes.
And I asked him if he had knew of them and listened to them, and he said no. So I told him I was like, you need to go listen. I was in the process of telling him you got to go listen to Bleed Out, that album.
We're doing 2 videos. Like it's probably gonna be another week or 2 before we can do this, but we're gonna do another set of videos where we're just gonna get his perspective on albums.
Yeah, because that Bleed Out album is it's
Holy
amazing.
shit!
It's yeah.
I think I managed to give it like a 9 or 9.5. I don't even remember.
We
Oh,
were
wow.
both in the 9. Yeah.
It didn't get less than a 9. I know that.
Mm-mm. It was funny. We both had the same favorite song off of it too.
We did. And I don't even remember what it is. It's been so
Don't
long.
Pray for Me.
Well,
Oh yeah.
I've also noticed like on our on these album reviews that we've been doing, we all seem to kind of like the exact same songs on the albums too. Like I mean, we all kind of all 3 of us kind of agreed the
And that's where you're
what is
fucking
it? That
wrong,
one
sir.
song on the Kill Switch. What?
So
No,
you wait
because
till
like we all
no,
kind
you
of
wait till I
agreed
get my
on the
my
Kill
part.
Switch album. we all kind of agreed on the song with the Kill Switch album, and we all agreed kind of on the song in what is it, on Stranger Lands or whatever in the Nightwish album. And I don't know about your part on this one, but me and yeah, and then like me and Doppler here have at least agreed that Arcana's really up there on this album for us.
It's funny you say
So
that because we're doing the channel when we were on the road. We would talk about how like 90% of the time we were in agreement. It was weird. It was very rare we disagreed.
So I have notes on this. I tried to take notes, even though the last couple of weeks it's been incredibly difficult to take notes because I've had a lot going on. So I'm going to give an overall, and then I can go into more details. Overall, this album has some of the best sounding instrumentals in the symphonic metal album. Absolutely the best. Caveat, even though a lot of it sounds like it's sample augmented, including the drums, that sounds like they're definitely not solely organic. Or if they are, that is probably the best recorded drums I've ever heard in my life. But guarantee they're at least sample augmented, if not completely sample replaced. Not that that's necessarily a bad thing, but for me, I like a more organic raw sound, as Doppler knows, and probably Frosty as well. But the caveat to this is that it allowed everything to be heard superbly. The drums and everything were absolutely within their realm of being able to be heard properly, because we do have to consider the fact that an average Joe is going to hear this, and an average Joe's not going to necessarily go, "Oh, I did not like how the guitar sounded in that section or that section." They're just going to be like, solid album. So, the drums, even though at least sample augmented, 90%, like 90-95% sure it's sample augmented, it still was good enough that it could be heard distinctly amongst all the instrumentals, which in a mix is what's supposed to be happening for balance. Yet, the bass and guitar sound were some of the best I've heard in the symphonic metal album. That bass, dear God, that bass sound was fantastic. And they complement each other for one of the best sonic balances I've heard in a symphonic metal album. And this is even going along the lines of more aggressive groups like Septic Flesh, which is my preference when it comes to symphonic metal. The vocals are so well done. Granted, I'm not sure how much has actually been processed compared to being organic, but still, they were good. They were excellent for what they were. And the vocals are also, they're nice. Again, this potential processing that occurred, but you can't in all honesty, and like even as much time as you want to take, you can't process shit and make it sound amazing. So you have to have a solid start when it comes to recording. But the vocals are nice and powerful without being too much or overpowering, and they mostly fit each track well. So overall, solid mix, solid balance. I don't tend to listen to stuff lyrically until like way later, until I gotten the sonic aspect of everything down pat. And I've listened to the balance, I've listened to the composition of it. Then I go into lyrically, how is this? Is this completely ridiculous, or is this, wow, this is very impressive? Which lyrics for me, I tend these days not to really give a shit about it, to be honest. Depending on the subject matter. Now, for an in-depth, Cross the Divide, the very first track on the album. Holy shit, did that come out impactful. There was amazing bass. It was amazingly punchy groove. And that stunning vocals and layers were well done. They didn't overdo them. They didn't underdo them. It was nicely done. I was impressed with Cross the Divide. This is probably, honestly, the first Epica album I've really heard. And I was thoroughly impressed with how they came out and just started this album. Arcana. It was a beautiful symphony to build a foundation with, and it had a strong rhythm. The pre-chorus piano and vocals were outstanding. The atmospheric layering was well done. Hell, the atmospheric layering on the majority of the album was well done. And it ends with the same strong beginning that it had, and it builds onto it just this pummeling end. And you'll have to forgive me if I'm starting to slur my words. It's like my second or third thing, so get over it. I'm having a good time. The third track, Darkness Dies in Light. This was incredible because it had one of my favorite types of opening, and that is it sounded like a film score. And it was well done. The growls were solid. The symphony and the metal operated as a unit. It wasn't that one was written for that part and one was written for this part. It wasn't that it didn't sound like they were written separately. It sounded like they were written together harmoniously. And I don't hear that very often. Septic Flesh is one of the very few symphonic metal groups I feel like does that, because the two main brothers that essentially operate that group, one of them is metal driven, the other is symphonic, the other is more orchestra oriented. So they work together, even though they have a lot of fights. They work together, and that's the reason Septic Flesh ends up sounding so good to me personally. But the solo went surprisingly well with the drums. I wonder if they actually choreographed that together, because these days it's not all that common for an album to be going to pre-rehearsal or anything together. It's done separately. Someone will send the drums over, someone will send the guitar parts over, and they just kind of collaborate in that sense with what time they have. This sounds like they actually sat down and they were in the room, and it had that in-room feel, which was nice. And then whenever they went into more of a down tempo, it was so beautifully well done. And there was a harpsichord in there. I love harpsichord because as you guys that watch this and watched us for the past year know, I am a big fan of classical, and not just like symphonic classical, but the interesting aspects, instruments within classical. There's the harpsichord, there's the xylophone, that when done well can really bring a nice spice to the composition. So that was really well done. Obsidian Heart. It was slower opening and it was slower overall, but it still held a nice solid rhythm, which much of this album does a great job at making a rhythm and keeping it solid and consistent. And it's had an even more incredible atmosphere. However, it felt like the weakest album. It felt like the weakest track on this album. It honestly felt like more of a filler, which is not a bad thing, but it felt like something that was almost possibly a jam session, and it's something that they kind of said, hey, this could fit into the album as just, let's add some more tracks to help satisfy the record label and what they want. Fight to Survive. The energy on the opening was just absolutely strong. It kind of stagnated, but it's not bad. And even it was weird because there was a strong opening, but then it went to a dance style energy, like you would almost hear it at just a club setting. That's weird, but worked. Not sure where to go with that. The bridge was absolutely beautiful. What surprised me the most is their breakdown was so much like a hardcore aspect, which I was not expecting for symphonic metal. It threw me off guard completely, but yeah, it still wasn't bad. It was just like, the fuck did you come from? But it was like, don't know where you came from, but I respect what you're doing. And it blended a very heavy-hitting rhythm, and it had a bold impact from the orchestra as well. So it's like this one of the first times, aside from more of the modern deathcore that we're hearing, where they're just having this essentially what sounds like the producer makes some symphonic aspect and throwing it into this pummeling thing that their deathcore is trying to do. This one, again, it collaborated nicely, and the orchestra was enjoying what they were hearing, so they were taking that energy and going off with it, and it was fascinating. And the solo, it came out of fucking nowhere for me. I did not expect it, and it seemed like it was a bit much, but I'm like, okay, I guess this is going on. Overall, this was the oddest track to me. They wanted to experiment with some aspects. Again, I don't know Epica's discography, so I can't say what is them, what isn't them. But for me, and listening to it for a first time, or having my already reference points for symphonic metal, this was on the odd side, but not bad. Metanoia. This had a beautiful opening. It was very heavy hitting with an amazing choir. It had a solid chorus and had a very striking bridge. For the bridge, part of the striking bridge was it almost felt like the marching drums were going in, and they had a layered solo that was also going in with the choir, and it was amazing. And there was some stellar unification with a nice ending. Metanoia was probably one of my favorites on this album. Time. Very interesting, because it was one that it was much like what Nightwish is known for doing, and creating sounds within the album to be able to help tell a story. That's exactly what can be heard with the child screaming, or the playing and then the screaming. So it's like, is this about to be some kind of Nightwish like piggyback? But it has, like, it fills you kind of with like worry and anticipation of what's about to happen. Is this going to be the story of someone fighting for their life? But it had a solid groove with. There was some blast beats in there that I didn't know how to feel about at first. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on here? And then whenever I listened to it again, whenever I was listening to it from the average Joe perspective, I enjoyed it. Because I wasn't focusing so much on the analytical aspect. I was just listening, and then it came in, and I'm like, hey, this complements my love for black metal. This is kind of nice. This is interesting. Where was I? And this had the most consistent, from my perspective, the most consistent groove of the entire album. It had a bridge that was beautifully executed with a sense of journey and like lifting up, similar to how the track in my album, Frostbite Mountains, at the end, it's like you're ready to journey on to avenge those who took your family, and that kind of epic journey kind of feeling. Speaking of which, I know this is kind of side railing, but would you guys be interested in I kind of want to do this, but I don't know if it'd be, granted, we don't really have to worry about conflict of interest. This can be just me completely out of the picture, and maybe getting some insider perspective, but would you guys be interested in doing a review of my album?
Which one? Your first one?
I only have one album.
Yeah. I mean, I can. Okay.
Yeah, because I am curious to see what... Because you guys are just kind of general crowd within the metal community, but you also have your reference points, and you can actually have discussions. So I am curious, from an analytical and average consumer, what you guys would actually think. So it's been like 6 years since I released it. I am curious now, in this day and age, what a metal listener would feel about that album. So,
well, not to mention, I have my own points in the album as well. So.
You do. but still, even though you have some pieces that I asked you to write, I still feel like you would be able to kind of give your thought, because still feel like you'd be able to give.
Oh, you know, I mean, I can give it. Yeah, because like, I mean, it'd be like you giving your opinion would be you just reviewing your own stuff. Doppler it would be like complete bystander,
Unbiased, yeah, complete
you know,
unbiased
seeing it
perspective.
for the first time sort of thing,
Yeah,
unbiased. And then you've got me, who's been a part of the process, been a part of at least two of the songs, but not the entirety of it. So you've got like an in between sort of like perspective.
yeah. Which, I mean, my whole
So
album,
yeah,
so
I could
my
see
whole
that.
album is up on YouTube, so you guys can listen to it and then go from there. Anyways, sorry, it might be a little bit of this talking, so forgive me. So now what I did have to say about time was it was somewhat odd overall, though. I don't remember how it was odd, because I was hoping to do this like maybe 2 weeks ago, and we just didn't get a chance to, so I don't remember some aspects. Apparition. This had probably the best guitar and bass intro thus far, because it was just in your face. It was solid, and there was a groove, which I love. The transitioning was solid throughout, and it still punched heavily through. It had an amazing rhythm through the verses and chorus. In my opinion, the solo was a tad too flashy in comparison to when comparing it to the rhythm being just a solid thing. The solo just kind of did an 80s thing and kind of just wanted to be the vocals and the start of the show, but it almost was too much for me. Overall, though, it was a beautiful composition. Okay, I only got 3 tracks left, thank God. Eye of the Storm. This was a strong and epic build up, and it had a straightforward rhythm. It wasn't impressive, but it wasn't bad. It wasn't bad at all. It didn't fall short. It was just, this is what we're doing. Enjoy. And it had a solid groove for the verse that it carried into an even stronger chorus for me. Grand Saga of Existence. This had a nice, gracefully smooth introduction, and it had a triumphant pre-verse. The verse, it was just as graceful as the introduction. The pre-chorus felt odd with maybe some progressive elements. I do remember now because it sounded a bit experimental, and I didn't know where the fuck they were going with it. But the chorus was solid and sturdy, and it saved it from what was going on in the pre-chorus. Some of the transitions there were questionable because, again, it was going off of progressive elements, but the chorus and chorus and verses were still solid at what they were trying to do. I did note that there were impactful choruses and there were graceful verses, so they had nice contrast, but yet they had the odd transitioning, but still okay. The bridge I really liked because it was big and it was dark, and it contrasted with the rest of the piece, but it wasn't bad. The breakdown was amazing on it, and the transition back into chorus was well done. It was an absolutely beautiful and epic piece, epic ending. It had an ending that was epic and amazing, is what I was trying to say. So I really enjoyed Grand Saga of Existence, besides the questionable transitions for me. Aspiral had such a soft beginning and had amazing vocals. I don't know what was going on with the spoken word. I didn't look into it like I meant to because I just didn't have the time. I didn't know if any of you guys had done some research into the spoken word that was on that part.
Mm-mm.
Okay, cool.
No.
Now the build up was so epic. It was amazing. It probably had the best transition out of everything within the album. And the rhythm and groove was just extremely consistent while maintaining interesting like flavors here and there. That it was kind of just some like little bits of spice that they put throughout that made it interesting, but it didn't veer off the path, which I greatly appreciate when a group can do that. The ending I was disappointed in because it felt abrupt to me. I don't know if you guys felt the same way.
A little bit.
Yeah.
A little bit.
It just kind of went, yep. And I'm like, you guys have been making just epic transitions and epic endings, and all of a sudden you're just, I had nothing to signify what was the end. I actually looked at the laptop or whatever I was listening to this on, and I'm like, did it die? Did I lose connection? What the fuck happened? Overall, I had mixed feelings on this album because the parts that were amazing and good were just stood out and were epic and were wonderful. The parts that were questionable were, I didn't know how to feel about them. The parts that were good were as good as they possibly could be, but yet the parts that were questionable really made me wonder how I felt about the album. So with all that in mind, I gave this a 7.5. Funny enough, it's way better than like an average album, but there was a lot to be desired, or I felt like a lot that could have been done differently to be a bit better within transitions or for certain aspects, but it wasn't so off that it completely destroyed the album for me. So
All
the
our
album was
scores were
interesting.
basically the same. All our scores are basically the same.
Yeah, so I mean, honestly, would I buy the album?
Yeah.
I don't think I could buy the album, to be honest. As amazing as some parts were, there was still a lot that threw me off and would be left to desire, even though, again, there was some amazing and strong parts throughout. And maybe eventually...
Yeah, it was a borderline buyer, but I think I would agree. I would lean probably not.
Yeah, I mean,
You know,
now, if this was playing in the background, I'd love it. I would absolutely love it.
Yeah.
And I would not
now if
skip
somebody
it.
gave me the album as a gift,
Yeah.
Oh yeah, if it was gifted to
So
me,
I don't know if I-
absolutely. I would not want to do away with it because it was amazing, but because it's good for what it is. But I can't see myself going out to get this.
right.
So
I could definitely agree to that.
Yeah. So yeah, that was our perspectives on the new Epica Spiral album. Well done. All things aside that could be seen as cons or negative, we highly recommend you guys go out and check this out for yourself so you can get your own perspective of it. You guys might absolutely love every aspect that we bitched about, but can't know that. If there are any other symphonic metal albums that you guys think we would prefer and wish to give a request, then please feel free to do so. We are always intrigued to see what else is out there that we may not know about. Doppler's probably going to know about every goddamn symphonic metal group there is out there and every album potentially that they've done. But there are still those like underground ones that may have been caught under the wayside from the mainstream.
There's a good chance if somebody brings up a band, good chance I'll know the band, but I may not know the album. Because I know the band, I haven't necessarily listened to all the albums. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, out of all of us, you're still the most symphonic metal aligned. So that's the reason I say that. But yeah. Any other thoughts from you guys? Perspectives, opinions on this album?
No.
Okay.
No.
Alrighty then. Well, until next time. Next time we're gonna have Frosty giving us his thoughts on both Night Wishes Imaginarium and Within Temptation's Bleed Out album.
Bleed Out. Yep.
That will maybe in a couple weeks.
Maybe get into some requests then too.
Yeah, get into some. Did we have any more? Have we had requests?
We have two. We've had two.
Oh, what are they?
We had the one from Chill, and then there was another one.
He gave us a new one.
Yeah. He did. And then there was Somebody else gave us one for another Nocturnal Bloodlust song, which we did one from them before.
Okay. Alrighty. Well, then it'll be a couple weeks, and then we might be able to get through some more filming on
Yeah.
Frosty's perspective on these albums, but it might be more like 3 weeks to a month because I've got some stuff going on that is taking up a lot of time and a lot of effort that I
Yeah.
can't really.
Well, the good news is we got a bunch of videos still to come out in that time, so.
We do, and we've been able to record some more today and get a lot of stuff out. So
Yeah.
until then, guys,
Mhm.
we hope you enjoyed what we had to offer. Of course, feel free to give your thoughts, opinions, tell us how we're fucking idiots. We get it all the time, to be honest. But until then, guys, keep rolling happy.